Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a regular city council meeting of the City Council of the City of Rockport, which was delayed from last Tuesday because of the storm. And so we're meeting today at 10 a.m. on the 12th of July, Friday. Meeting will be called to order. Let's stand together while we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilperson Hatton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. I do have one card from Mr. Scott Hime. Mr. Hime, if you would come to the podium and give your name and address, you've got 3 minutes, sir.
Scott Hime, 1901 FM 3036. This is about the TIRZ. I'll keep it brief. My father was a university professor. His students routinely placed in the top 3 schools in the state on the CPA exam. Many times he pointed out incorrect answers on the CPA exam itself to the AICPA and won. He was very good at what he did. Once a group of nice doctors came to him to analyze a proposal they had gotten from an investment group. The sales pitch said they could invest $1 million into the building of a new private hospital and then deduct that full amount from their taxes year after year. Most importantly, the sales pitch said it was all legal. It was like magic money. The doctors wanted my father's opinion, but only to confirm what they already planned to do. After careful study, he went back to them with his conclusion. The scheme wouldn't fly with the IRS. The doctors snubbed him, in effect saying that the investment group was made of high-powered attorneys, accountants, and former healthcare execs. And they had simply sussed out a way to make legal something that a lowly professor couldn't figure out. They invested, which has always been their intention. Just a few years later, the IRS came to visit those nice doctors. The scheme was not, in fact, legal. It had never been legal, no matter what the high-powered execs, lawyers, and accountants had said. The investors were forced to pay back all they had gained, plus penalties, plus interest. It was a costly mistake. You're smart people, you know exactly what I'm saying. I know what TIRZs are intended for, as do most of you now. You can get an attorney to tell you whatever you want. That's what the Austin city leaders recently did, but a judge ruled against them and found that project illegal. You can tell yourself that people like me just don't understand how public finance works. Allow me to retort in advance. You're going to sequester public funds and place them under the control of an unelected board to benefit private business by ignoring the Texas statute that spells out why and when these TIRZs can be formed, while pretending that a judge didn't recently rule that a very similar scheme in Austin was illegal. How am I doing so far? All the rest of the details are just distractions. From the sound of things, you probably had the votes to pass this before it even went public, so it's likely just a formality to handle out the terms of the vote on it. But don't delude yourself into thinking that the ends really do justify the means, or that tap dancing on the law can ever be a righteous act. You're going to do what you're going to do, but at least take a few days to talk to the Austin city leaders to find out why their TIRZ lost in court. The city is already committed to enough costly litigation over downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Before we do that, we're going to have a roll call to establish a quorum. Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2.
Here.
Ward 4.
Here.
Mayor here. Mr. Brundred is on the road today, couldn't make it. So we do have a quorum. All right, next item, consent agenda. The following items may be acted upon in a single motion. No separate discussion or action on any of these items will be held unless pulled from the request at the request of a member of the city council. Anybody wish to remove any of those?
No, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? If not, we'll call the vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It is unanimous. Next item, consider Item number 4, consider approval of the second final reading of ordinance number 1937 of the City of Rockport, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances to provide a process for petitions for release from the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction, providing a saving clause, providing that the ordinance is cumulative for all ordinances, amending Appendix A, fee schedule, Article 5.500, application fees, to add a fee to process for a petition for the release of extraterritorial jurisdiction, and amend Article A, severability clause, providing for publication, providing an effective date. Ms. Goodwin.
There are no changes since the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any questions, council?
I have a question. Approximately how many hours do you think is involved in this process?
So the petition alone, and then doing the research to make sure everything is there. On my part, the ones that I have handled in previous city, I would say take about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. And then from there, it would go to the Public Works, and it would go then to the council, to the city attorney, and to the city manager. And then once it's approved, then we would have to redo all the maps. So that's where we added in the expense to come up with the fee.
So you think about 3 hours per department?
I would say 3 hours for me, maybe 2 hours for Carrie or Mike, and then for the city attorney to review it, I would say an hour and a half.
So probably no more than 15 hours of work then. And if this aligns with what other cities are, their service fees are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I guess if we want to add to, though, we're having the cost of maps as well.
Right, so we were just going to go with this rate at first. This is the rate that I used in the previous city that I came from, and see if we needed to up it or lower it. But right now, we just felt that that the person requesting it should pay for our time to do it instead of all the taxpayers.
Anyone else? All right. Any other question? If not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve agenda item number 4 as read. No changes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question? We'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It's unanimous. Item number 6.
Aye.
You're right. I don't know why I skipped you, Mr. Sorrell. I'll get back to you. Item number 5, consider the approval of second and final readings of ordinance number 1938, the City of Rockport, Texas, amending ordinance number 1911, which adopted the 2023-2024 budget beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024, repealing all prior ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication, providing for an effective date. Mr. Sorrell. No changes. Any questions, council?
Make a motion to approve agenda item number 5 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question? Not, we will call for a vote on item number 5. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It's unanimous. Now number 6. Consider approval of second final reading of ordinance number 1939, granting a conditional use permit for the purpose of building accessory use structure prior to residential dwelling on property located at 125 Lamar Drive, also known as Lot 3, Ayers Acres, being 19.2809 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, subject to compliance with conditions stated within the ordinance as well as those stipulated in City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Ms. Dietrich. Okay, nothing new. Any questions, council?
I just want to again just kind of say if we can maybe look into the original. I just want to kind of put out there again that I would like to look in our original building codes or ordinances for zoning to see if we can add structural buildings onto R1s, just so we don't have to keep coming back and doing these things.
Yes, we are looking at updating the ordinance to allow accessory use structures prior to the residential dwelling if they have acreage.
Yes, if they have acres.
Yes.
I just think that'll save you guys a lot of time.
Yes,
in-
that's gonna be part of our
so
amendments when we bring our code updates to you.
Just wanted to put that out
But
there.
we're looking at 2 acres or more
Okay,
to make that
so
amendment.
hopefully we can get that done, and this will
Yes.
save a lot of time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve agenda item number 6 as presented.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question? Call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2? Aye. Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye, is unanimous. Item number 7, consider the approval of the first of 2 readings on ordinance 1940, amending Code of Ordinances Chapter 86, streets, sidewalks, and other public places by deleting Article 5, parades, and replacing said Article 5 as special events in the attached form, which may be modified in the future by ordinance, adopting penalties for violation of this ordinance and an amount not to exceed $500 per violation, repealing all other ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability and effective date and publication. Ms. Goodwin and Chief.
Yes, so we're going to do this presentation together. The way we handled the special event ordinance, before I got here, they had been working on it, and so we got together and created a team and teams, and then we got input from everyone who will have involvement in this ordinance. So, okay. I went to the arrow button. There's only one.
Oh, I think the other one's just wiped off.
Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is just to highlight what is in this ordinance. We saw that with the continuing growth and diversity of and the frequency of all the events that there are in Rockport, that we needed to do more than just a form for closing streets. So we rolled that into an event ordinance and an event form and fees and everything all in one. So this will cover festivals, parades, public gatherings. We realize that the events bring economic benefits to the city and to all the residents, but at the same time, they also provide challenges. So again, there are some great economic impact with the special events that occur in Rockport, and there's community engagement and culture enrichment.
And I'd like to give Shelley kudos, because once she was put in charge of this, she really just ran with it and made it happen. So it's been a long time coming to get this ordinance in place. Some of the challenges posed with some of the special events that we've had in the past has been public safety, traffic management, some of the noise impacts that it has on other people in the community, and also resource allocation. And so this ordinance will help manage all of that instead of having a huge event without any kind of public safety or traffic mitigation has been problems in the past. This ordinance will help fix those issues as well. Some of the rationale for having the special event ordinance to begin with is, I'm sorry, thank you. So regulation and control, and an ordinance will provide clear framework for the approval and regulation of special events. This will ensure that all events are conducted in a safe and orderly manner, minimizing disruptions in the community. There's also a permitting process that the applicants will go through. It's a formal permitting process that will help the city assess the potential impacts of events and allocate resources accordingly. It would also allow for better coordination among city departments and event organizers. There's also safety standards that are in place for the event, much like the amount of people who are going to be involved, where it's going to be at, how many police officers may be required for the event as well. mitigation of negative impacts by outlining guidelines for noise control, waste management, safety plans, and traffic planning. The ordinance can help mitigate the negative effects of events on the community. And also revenue generation. Implementing permit fees and other charges associated with special events will reimburse the city of their unexpected expenses and have the events pay for the expenses and not all the taxpayers. Got that? So what the ordinance does include, it includes a uniform application with detailed information. It has an application fee. There's a permit process for all events within the city limits. There's time frames and deadlines involved with it. There's areas in there that cover street closures and approval for street closures, and it all requires the city manager's approval process. And the city council, you all can hear appeals if there is one that is denied. Requirement for a bond and/or insurance and cash bond is also going to be required for each event that is applied for. What the application itself does include, it has event information, where the location is going to be, what are the event components, if there's any street closures involved will be in there, if there's any security requirements they will be in there as well. There'll be communication form requirement from the applicant. There'll be a requirement for traffic and safety plan as well, as we already discussed. Any equipment that may be required, and also a trash and waste management plan as well. All right.
So there are some set deadlines. So this is the agenda approval process. There will be set deadlines. There will be a special event approval team. Everyone will look at the application and make sure that they've got all the information that they need for to cover their part of the event. There will be the composition of the team will be the city manager, city secretary, parks department, public works, and the police department. And then anyone else we might need to pull in. So there are set fees. These will establish to cover city expenses. As you read the ordinance, you see that we take out barricades and usually it's overtime to take those out. So we're trying to get those covered, those expenses covered, especially when they're at the last minute and we didn't know and we didn't budget it. So there's special event guidelines. Once the ordinance is adopted, we'll put together an easy guideline for whoever's putting on the event to understand the process, the fees, and the rules. And conclusion is the ordinance is just to balance the benefits of special events and to maintain public order and safety without having a lot of impact on the residents who live here.
Now the time for questions.
Questions?
The fee schedule and what have you started just getting some ballpark figures and what have you there together? Is there anything we need to think about at this point?
So I think the fee schedule's in your packet. I can tell you some of the fee schedule, but some of the fees has to do with the police department, has to do with barricades. We did not enter the pool in there, and so I need to make that correction because I think there's an ordinance that covers the pool expenses. But we did want to list those, and we'll reference to check that ordinance. There is an application fee. If you are, if we're asking you to turn this in 60 days before your event, and if you or later than that, we go up on the fee because we're going to have to rush through the process. This is just to get us started, and if we find it's too much or too little, then we will adjust. There is a provision that the city manager can waive some fees.
That was my next question. If we've got events here that are good money makers and for the event coordinators and have been going on for a long time, but I was just concerned with maybe if the, a nonprofit organization or the Girl Scouts want to come do a little event and they've got, security deposits and bonding and fees. And I don't want to push those folks that are not really a money-making type of an event, but more of a community type event. Are they going to be required to have the same permit if there's some street closures?
If there's street closures, absolutely, yeah.
So
and then also if there's a certain amount of people that are gonna be planning to be there, there's requirements for police officers, and then the cost of those police officers as well.
Okay, as long as there's some provisions in there for folks that are, maybe, again, some of these nonprofit style events and what have you.
Most of the nonprofits are on private property, though you usually don't have public closures for those.
Right.
Like the Girl Scouts, they're not gonna close down a street for an event, you know what I mean? So, I support not deterring events either.
Yeah.
So, I get what you're concerned.
Yeah, recouping the cost that can be substantial is fine, as long as there's some mechanism there for folks in the community that have done this in the past, and we don't want to push them out or squelch their.
Correct. So, I got a call yesterday that they want to close some streets, and they know that their event is in October, and I asked if she would just wait until this application so that instead of her trying to gather all this information, it'll be nice and clean and we can present it to everyone. If she doesn't like the city manager's answers, then of course she can appeal it to come to the city council. And that's where I would come in to put it on the agenda.
So just to I think most of the applications that come in front of us, I don't see a lot of nonprofits, but I'm just wanting to make sure I'm hearing what you want to say. So you want to put an extra processing fee on here, maybe like a discount for nonprofits. Is that what I'm hearing from you? Or like a provision to help them with cost?
Well, I don't know.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
I don't know what's been done in the past. How have we handled some of these larger ones that are money makers for the event folks and what have you, they can afford to do this. Do we have events that have happened here in the past and what have you? I'm not sure that I've been to every one of them, but do we have some folks that maybe can't go through with all of these fees and what have you? It sounds like there's a mechanism in place for the city manager to go, okay, this is a nonprofit, small.
If you're looking to put something in there to help with nonprofits fees, you're more than, as a city council person, you're more than willing to ask that. I just want to make sure you're clarifying what you want to go put in there. Because if it's not going to be in there and we pass it, then no, they're going to have to pay all the fees that they're paying.
This isn't finalized yet, right?
Yeah, no.
Right.
Okay.
We
So
could add,
Okay, yes.
So it'll be back.
we could add another application fee, maybe nonprofits, and then put a half the price.
I think it would just be beneficial. I don't think we have a lot of nonprofits that do it, but I think it's beneficial to them just because we do have an abundance of nonprofits in this community. And so and that is hard for them to come up with that kind of fee schedule that I'm seeing in front of me. I do agree with what you're saying. If we can maybe add just a provision on that, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Again, I think it's good that we're doing something that's going to be uniform because we have all these things that come in front of us, and a lot of people get confused and they're like, I don't know what I have to get. I don't have to do this. I think it's a great idea. But I think that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable with the fee schedule.
The other thing, I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind.
I have one suggestion as well. Under the communications portion of the application, in the past, we have asked the organizers to please go out and get the support of the businesses directly affected. Realistically, you're always going to have a business in support or not of support of an event. I think it needs to be clearly stated, 3/4 majority or something. We have to have some kind of protection because as it states now, it just wants us to have all those, please have all those that are impacted sign it. But we also don't know what that is. Are we providing them a letter to go out and have signed, or are they developing something?
We're going to create a communication form that they have to take, and we'll put like a boundary, not maybe one's next door, but maybe use what the planning and zoning has to use, where it's like within 100 feet or 200 feet. We can do that as well.
I just think it's important that we are stating that it needs to be realistic in the sense of a majority of support, because you're always going to have that detour of non-support for any event, right?
Right.
There's always that placement of concern there from one business owner or home, whatever it may be. So we need to give those organizers some leeway there. And then my other question is, as far as this fees, have these values ever existed within our area before?
No.
Because we surely don't have, I am, instead of, starting high and working our way into corrections low, which takes time, I do not want to, especially because my merchants downtown often are the ones that are utilizing, or going to utilize this ordinance the absolute most. And as far as frequency goes, I don't want them to be negatively impacted by this ordinance. So it's my concern, are the values realistic, and what are we basing that on?
So we reviewed several different cities who have events regularly, I think about 5 different ones, and these are actually much, much lower. A lot of them charge anywhere from $1,500. Some of them charge for $200 for the application fee. There's a lot of them that charge per the person who's putting out the barricades, their time, their overtime. They charge them that plus the barricade. So we started low. The only thing we did adjust is when we talked to the city attorney, and he said, for damages, having just $10,000 is not going to cover. So he asked us to up that. And to get a bond is not, it's expensive, but not that expensive. But most of them, your events already have insurance. They have that event insurance, which could cover that. We're just looking to be able to go after damages if there are damages, instead of the city having to cover those damage, the person, who either created it or the person who applied for the special events, they would cover it.
So as far as the bond insurance up to $20,000, it just states discretion pending the complexity of the event, as well as the cash deposit of the $10,000 pending the complexity of the event. Should we do any kind of standardization on, just as you have 0 to 1,000, 1,000 and above, so that this is more standardized?
We can look at that as well.
So that they're well aware this isn't going to be just, if it's a very small event, obviously, but if we have this huge carnival, complete downtown closure, your liability does increase.
Right.
So I support having that. I just don't want, like I said, I do not want to deter our small events that are, they truly are our most frequent organized events that we have.
Right. So like your street closures, that can be waived, again, by the city manager, if it's just a simple street closure. But if they're closing the whole downtown, then we need to,
correct.
We need to look at what could happen, and so that make sure that the city is protected. I can tell you that the city I came from, I probably told someone this story before, but they had an event going on that they had a permit, they had a bouncy house, and someone got in the bouncy house and the wind picked up a little bit, and a lady fell out and she had to be resuscitated. And she tried to go after the city, so the city immediately had to work on their coverage, what they had to make sure that they weren't going to get held in the middle.
Shelley, and I know these fee schedule is just a starting point for us. We'll maybe adjust these a little bit, but to expand on Stephanie's question, if an event was applying today and none of this is in place right now, do we have any of these fees? We're right now, if an event was going to happen tomorrow, might be a small application fee, but none of this exists right now?
Right.
Okay.
So any event that would happen between now and the next meeting on the 23rd, they're holding the event. We know of one person that's coming back, and that one would probably most likely be waived because he's gonna have to come in right after. But then again, any kind of street closure, anything like that will have to come back to you. So if I get a street closure in, you know, I'll put it on the agenda because the ordinance wouldn't have been adopted yet.
Okay, so, but the folks out there that put these events on, again, from small ones to the largest ones,
Right.
their history with us in doing these events is have virtually no cost to them with the city, and they're gonna see some substantial costs now and what, so we're changing it a lot, which may be the right thing to do, but I just wanna make sure I understand, being the newest one here, that, you know, we're going from 0 to somewhere else. We need to be prepared for the questions and, you know, I've done this for the last 10 years and I paid a $50 application fee. Now it's gonna cost me, you know, probably substantially more for the very same event. As long as we're prepared, and it sounds like we are, to explain why, and there's a tremendous amount of cost and what have you from the different things that we do to support the event. We're just supporting it at no cost right now, it looks like, so.
There is a lot of cost. The cost would involve Mike's budget and mainly the chief's budget is where they get hit for, at the last minute, having to pull people on and having to pay overtime.
Yeah, as long as we're prepared for that, and to explain what we're doing here with this to the public, because it sounds like the event promoters and what have you that are probably used to doing business here have had virtually no fees for years past, and now they're gonna, see these, as long as we're prepared to explain why and to cover the cost, and I don't think the city should burden, you know, and have all of those costs for these events that they're making money on.
Shelley, these deposits, at what point are they due during the application process before the event occurs?
So the application fee would be when you turn in your application. The deposit would probably be after we all look at it, or the team looks at it, and then we would request the deposit. Because we would need to set it to the right amount or waive it.
Because I know that Matt had mentioned the nonprofit portion. I was just curious if when this is presented to city council, at that point, we could waive a security deposit based on the event.
Correct. The city manager can waive it, or she can lower it, and if the person, the event planner does not like that, then it would go to council. And at that time, then the council can say no fee.
Do you feel like it needs to be amended to include a portion for nonprofit?
I'm actually ready to make a motion. I actually would like to make a motion to postpone this and fix the little things that we would like to be fixed on here. I think there's quite a few issues that we're having with it, and I think it needs to be fixed before we actually go ahead with the first reading.
Okay.
Such as the nonprofit, adding a realistic support system, making it more standard, just making sure those little things that we have talked about. I'd like to postpone it to the next city council meeting and maybe have
A workshop.
I don't know, a workshop, but maybe a public hearing.
Yeah,
I would like to have I would like to make a motion to postpone this, to add our requirements and our questions onto the next first reading, and then also add a public hearing so we can have people speak on it.
I'll second that.
That's postponed until next council meeting.
Next council meeting, yes,
Okay.
please.
I have a motion and a second. No
Second.
question.
You're the third.
There's no question. Call for a vote to postpone.
Okay.
Ward 1,
Aye.
Ward 2,
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Along those lines, let me say right quick, having been here long enough that I can remember way back when we rode horses and had stages coming through and like that, we never recovered the cost of a downtown event that shut down streets because the people would tell us how many officers they wanted and how many barricades they wanted. The barricades would go out and then we couldn't find them, and half of them were knocked down by cars and broken. And if there is a requirement that says if you have so many people or so many streets shut down or a certain size of the area, you're gonna have to have this many officers. Well, it's a help because we don't have to squeeze that down, and we don't have to end up paying the overtime for the folks. But there's a large commitment that the city goes into when we're dealing with this, and in probably all of our departments, there are shortages of staff to do those jobs, and we have to pay more people to be working on the street while other folks are doing the rest of the job. And there has to be a way to get compensation for that so that it's not the issue that it has been in the past. And I sympathize with the nonprofits. I understand that there are, you know, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, and if a church group wants to have a thing. Someone asked me when they saw some of this about the folks helping people get across the street at the Baptist church that are trying to get over into the neighborhoods on Halloween. And I said, no, that doesn't shut a street. It gets some bunch of firemen out there directing traffic. But those kind of things are addressed in the ordinance as best I could read into it at the time I've had it. But that's a problem we've had in the past, is not having enough people there, not getting paid for the losses and for the overtime and like that. Use of patrol cars, use of the barricades that get run over and broken and so forth. But anyway, but thank you. There's a lot of good work went into this, and I sat and read it, and I thought, well, it sounds complicated. It's not really, because the form's simple to fill out. But thank you for the hard work, and we'll look at it again.
Yeah, it's a
We
great
all
start.
did
Just
it.
fine tune a
Yes,
couple
thank you.
things, and I think we'll be good to go.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds
Thank you,
good.
guys.
All right. Next item on the agenda, item number 8, consider approval of order number 2024-01-0, renewing the disaster declaration of local disaster of the mayor of the city of Rockport. What came up with this is the county judge made the declaration for the disaster, which is fine. This is while I was home taking care of my wife while she had her surgery. And our opinion was that if the county judge signs the thing, that's good enough. The emergency management director for the county asked that Fulton and Rockport both have signed disaster announcements and so forth. So that, and the fact that it's being extended until we have a chance to get all the paperwork and so forth in, is why it was brought to council, so that y'all can agree to extend the thing for whatever the term needs to be. And I didn't see in his declaration that there's an end in there, just extending it temporarily. Okay. And so that is what we're asking, is if y'all agree with extending that, and then I'll sign it again and get it back into effect, but I wanted to get y'all's opinion. Any question about it? If not, do I have a motion to extend the disaster declaration?
Make a motion to approve agenda number 8.
I have a motion, do I
I
have
will
a second?
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Okay, sorry.
Mayor, aye.
Distracted.
It's unanimous. Next item, consider the approval of Construction Change Directive number 2 related to the new City Hall project, and the amount currently estimated to be a credit of $1,561. Ms. Henry.
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you. The construction change order that is being brought to you today consists of 3 items, which concludes to a deduction of $1,500. The first item is the raceways on the exterior building sign, so where it says Rockport City Hall on the outside of the building, there's been a change in the design of that, so it was an increase of $6,700. The decrease of $12,600 had to do with them removing the shells from what we were anticipating being shellcrete for the sidewalks around the building. So they have reduced that. There is potentially another change coming, because we're flipping the integral coloring from being in the center to being on the outside, so we may have another direction on that. We're just waiting to hear back on that. And then the third item was an increase of $4,300 for the lighting in the 2 display cases in the middle of the building, the lobby downstairs. We had them in there, and we said there should be lights there, but we didn't tell them to put electricity to the light bulbs, so we're including that at this point. So it is a total decrease of $1,561.10. Do y'all have any questions?
I like credits. Make a motion to approve agenda number 9 is read.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a second. Any further question? Call for vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye, it's unanimous. Item number 10, consider the approval of award a bid to Raw Demo for an amount not to exceed $9,850 for the demolition and removal of existing concrete and asphalt located at the Main Street Visitors Kiosk and art installation site not to exceed $9,850. Ms. Henry.
Yes, again, Mayor and Council. This item is being brought to you, just as a recap, we brought RFP, went out for requests for proposals previously, and we did not receive any the first time, and the second time it was really high, so we declined that. So at this point, we are breaking it down into smaller pieces. We are working with Warren Hassinger to help us get local bids and try to make sure we've got 3 bids coming in for each piece of this project. At this point, this is just for the demolition and removal of the concrete that's already there and a section of the asphalt on the north side of the area. And so at this point, the low bid has come in at $9,850. And we are seeking, our recommendation is asking y'all to approve that bid for $98.50 to raw demo.
Questions, council?
I know that we're trying to do everything kind of a la carte now.
Yes, ma'am.
To stay within the scope of the project as well as the cost. Based on the raw demos quote of the $9,800, that falls well within our flexibility to still move and complete the other tasks needed.
It's going to be tight, but we are going to get all of it done in a timely manner. But yes, from what we're seeing, we should be able to get it all done. When we, in the engineer's bid, they had bid $5,000 just for the demolition and removal of the concrete alone. So this is a little bit higher than was anticipated. However, this is for the concrete and the asphalt. So it's still within a price range that the engineer is comfortable with.
And when was that engineer report received to us? How old is it? Based on, I mean, we've got a lot of...
It is the engineer's cost estimate. It is this year. It was during this process.
Okay.
Other questions? Now, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 10 as presented.
Thank you. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any further questions? We'll call for vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is city manager's update. City manager's sitting home with her wrist hurting because she had surgery on both of them a couple of days ago. And so she is sitting there using pain relievers and didn't want to sit down here and try to help run a meeting with pain relievers. Do we have anything, Kimberly, that you wanted to announce?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Council report?
I don't have too much to report at this time. I know we all had a lot of hurricane prep last weekend, so I am fortunate and grateful that we weren't directly impacted. And, you know, I think we'll be ready next time. So, other than that, not too much on our side.
Ward 2 met with several of the businesses in my ward, and we're going to be, I'll get with Kimberly and Vanessa, we're going to do a little meet your council member town hall type of thing at one of the businesses over on Market Street agreed to let us have their little area there after hours, so we're looking forward to announcing that shortly.
Not too much. July 4th, you know, came and went. It was a busy time around town, and I think it went well. Fireworks are great, and I think we didn't have too much incidents. We got to go on the boat, me and Councilmember Matt over here, so that was fun, and yeah, that's about it.
Right. For my part, I was obviously meeting with the Emergency Operations Center folks as the hurricane was coming in, and I would like for everyone to know that you've got a lot of really dedicated people that come to those meetings, about 60 or 70 of them at a time, and make decisions on behalf of the city, the county, and the town of Fulton. And it's not a simple thing to do. We go down there and sit and talk for endless hours, it seems like sometimes, about the issues that are going on. And in this particular case with a hurricane that was moving up the coast and nobody knew where the heck it was going, what happens in these events, and we talked at one point, one of the meetings, the folks that grew up here and lived here all their life, if you say we have a possibility of a Category 1 hurricane, they're saying, I'm not going anywhere. The problem with this storm is it was Category 1 for sure, maybe 2, and at one point possibly 3, and we saw what it did to Houston and Galveston. And we didn't need that. If we order an evacuation, which we did, we do that way ahead of time, because if we wait until after Corpus Christi does something, people can't get out of here. So there was a lot of discussion, a lot of hard work, and a lot of good folks expressed their opinions. We did call for an evacuation, particularly of people living in low-lying areas, or people that had medical needs and would need assistance from a doctor where there wouldn't be one here. The emergency center would be shutting down. There was no emergency care. And people needed to know that, and people that needed that type of help needed to be somewhere else. So you had a dedicated bunch of folks that deserve a whole lot of appreciation from all of us for being down there and taking care of those issues. And I was real proud of the way they did it. Some of them for the first time. And it was interesting. It was a lot of hours, but you had good people trying to take care of the welfare of our people here, and I appreciate them. Okay, City Council will recess in this meeting and reconvene in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorneys, and 551.074, personnel matters. Chapter 1, City Hall, number 1, City Hall, number 2, Concho Street, number 3, General Land Office, and drainage projects, and data pros settlement. And to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of an employee, the city manager. We are in executive session. It is 10:46 a.m. and/or fee simple for municipal purposes, providing and affirming authorization of the city manager to obtain the necessary appraisal report and the making of bona fide offers of just compensation for the easement and/or fee simple, ratifying prior documents and acts made for acquisition of the easement and/or fee simple, authorizing and/or reaffirming the authority of the legal counsel to institute eminent domain processing on behalf of the city for the acquisition of the easement and/or fee simple on said tracts if negotiations are unsuccessful, authorizing and reaffirming seeking all legal means necessary to enter upon property for work necessary to effectuate the need or ability to seek eminent domain proceedings and studies incident thereto, authorizing and reaffirming appropriation of funds for a lawful source and providing for an effective date. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 13 as presented.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further question? If not, we will call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It is unanimous. Have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Second, we are adjourned.
I wasn't prepared. This was our one.